I'll start.
Yeah.
Okay. I was playing the build of the game as I stated that it is, and I wondered if at some point during, I don't know, for any reason there will be those new units that are in the campaign added to the multiplayer section. I know it will not work, but I'm asking if at some point, I don't know, maybe for some events or for some April Fools, I don't know, you are going to add some of these units to the multiplayer.
Probably not to the tournament level play of the game, the core multiplayer, but it's certainly feasible for them to appear in arcade style games that we can do, or that actually any user of the game can do and put out there and make available. But they're crazy. You know, we tried to make the campaign nuts and do things that just seem really powerful and cool to what you're trying to accomplish within the campaign, but wouldn't necessarily work out in that very competitive, specifically designed multiplayer game. So. And
so the direct question is, if you could add one of these units in the multiplayer without considering the balance, what would it be? Talking about what we saw today, of course.
Yeah. I mean, what would be my favorite one? For me, I feel like it's not about one. It's in combination with the things I'd want to do. So, like when I play through the campaign, I try to specifically pick the abilities that just seem like it's a landslide win. So, the Swarmling upgrade to Zerglings is three Zerglings out of one egg and on the instant would probably be my favorite, because it would make it easy to just do the gameplay I want to do, to spam
smash everything in the way.
But yeah, it varies. It depends, and sometimes there's some mutation combinations with evolution with Kerrigan's powers that just feels great, and it depends on what direction you go. But if I were to pick one, I'd be Swarmling.
Okay.
So it has been almost 2 years now since the first pictures were announced from the Heart of the Swarm single player. So can you briefly give a sum up? What are the major changes that you've made since then?
Sure. So all of the different metagame mechanics, all the story mode mechanics that are in there have gone through numerous iterations. And what you see today as the final product, we felt like that was the best version of all of it, but we did a lot of experimentation on how Kerrigan levels up, how you select those abilities, what those abilities are, the same thing with mutation, and then the same thing with the entire evolution view. We didn't necessarily know those things at that time. We knew we were going to do cool stuff, but we didn't know how that would look and feel, and so a lot of that was iteration upon iteration in that area. The other thing that's changed significantly is just the missions themselves. We took missions all the way to fruition, minus maybe the specific art, and recording the dialogue, and then threw it out and went again, depending, or tweaked. A lot of, some of things as significant as you used to go down the path this way and then go here, and then now you go this way, or whatever. The changes could be very significant. So every mission went through significant changes from what was shown there. And then finally, the last thing was there were also just tweaks on the feature level, like difficulty level. We only had 3 difficulty levels originally. We saw that not that many people played at brutal difficulty. It didn't feel worth it. From our personal playbacks on the team, just 0 hour just happened in the last couple of months. We added brutal back into the game to give that high level or hard level of gameplay for the most expert level players.
Okay, if I can ask a follow-up question.
Of course.
One thing that we didn't see today was the choosing between different planets that we saw in the first one, where you could choose between Char and Kaldir, and now we had just 3 missions on Kaldir, and it's mentioned that there is some kind of traveling menu, but it's not in the current build. Is it still in principle the same?
Yes,
or?
It's the same. That part has stayed the same, and yes, you will make choices on where you go. It's about what you experience first and what type of creatures you want to get to first. That aspect has stayed the same, but we just didn't put it in the build this time because we wanted to really focus on her leveling up and the evolution and mutation experiences.
Okay. Talking about that, does the game have different storylines let's say, different choices that you can make in order to change the end of the game?
No, we did that in Wings. We stayed away from it. The content, we felt we put a lot of time and effort into this content, and although it does have some cases where that replayability you can play back through, for us that replayability is out of how you did it. What types of powers did Kerrigan have? What sorts of evolution decisions and mutation decisions did you make? And then you can go back through and see that. The other decisions is how you experienced it in what order, but it does not change the story.
Okay.
So I saw, sticking with the mutations, that you completely removed those systems of collecting mutagen and then spending it, and now it's just decision, decision, decision. So you cannot collect anything, but you always have to decide what kind of feature you want for your units. Was that so? What's the reason behind it?
You know, specifically, I don't know at that point, other than what I suspect is it felt it felt more hardcore than it needed to, and we kind of got that through Kerrigan's specific leveling system. But if you want a good answer on that, I can get that from the designers and get back to you on that one.
Would be interesting to know.
Sure.
So, because some people might
reminding me.
more like this kind of collectible style, while others like the idea that you have to choose and cannot just buy everything if you collect enough. Maybe sticking at the story mode, we see all those dialogues in there, and I know you're not the story expert here, but how important are these dialogues to the people who really want to get into the details of the story? Do they tell you more than just how to do these, how to do that?
Yes, I think they do. I think they give you a glimpse of who those characters are, a little bit of the ecology and the whys. I think Abather's a great example of this. He's talking about what he does, why he thinks what he does. There's some really funny moments later on in the game of if you keep talking to him and hearing what he's saying as you travel to additional planets and places, and so I think it does add background information to you that's valid, and that actually improves the enjoyment. In the beginning, and what you're seeing there is still instructional things letting you know what is this thing, and Kerrigan has a lot of these questions because she's kind of going through it again. She's not the Queen of Blades. She has a lot of questions, and it works very conveniently for you as the player to experience it as she's asking these questions. But later on, there's a lot more about them having questions back to her. Why are we doing what we're doing? Why are you trying to accomplish what you're trying to accomplish? And it really helps to have those conversations and get that info from them.
No, you can.
Okay. In the last months, the creative development team has constantly answered questions from the users, and in some of the questions you could read that the story reception of the original Wings of Liberty campaign was there were some critical points. Let's keep it that way. And following up on that feedback, have you made any changes in the concept for the missions, or maybe even real changes into a certain mission for Heart of the Swarm?
What I can say is that the story has undergone. I think people believe that we have this solid story right from the beginning and end. We knew here's where it's going to end for Wings of Liberty. Here's where it's going to end for Heart of the Swarm, and begin for Heart of the Swarm, and here's where it's going to begin and end for Legacy of the Void. The truth is that conceptually we knew many things we wanted to see happen, and even after the development of Wings of Liberty, the ending over here has changed multiple times.
Okay.
We've played with what happens within this things that you see and experience in Heart of the Swarm multiple times as well. So we are still figuring this all out as we go. So certainly the feedback and comments do affect it. As far as specific to the missions, I don't know what particular. I've read most of the things that Brian answered. Brian Kindergan was the guy who wrote most of Wings of Liberty and a lot of Heart of the Swarm. And he tried to. I've read most of them, but I don't know which one in particular you're talking about. So I don't know of any missions that changed as a direct result of that, but it's possible. I could get you an better answer than that one.
Okay.
I was thinking about the replay stuff that you talked about this morning. The possibility to take control of a game from a replay. Is there any plan to find a way or to find the possibility of adding some kind of artificial intelligence that could some way emulate what is going to what the real player was going to do from the point where you take control of the replays? You made the example of two pro gamers competing, and at some point you decide to take control of one of the army,
Right.
but the opposite army is not moving actually.
Well, they'll do whatever things were queued up. So if you'd had a bunch of Marines that were queued to build, that would happen.
So they
but beyond
don't.
that, it won't. And no, there's not, because it's a really difficult task. There's no plan to do that. Well, we could potentially long-term allow an AI to be playing, getting context of what they're trying to do and the amount of effort that goes into these pros learning the particular tactics they're doing, which our AIs don't do in a lot of cases, would be a pretty massive undertaking. And there's other features that keep coming up all the time, like automated tournaments and things like that, that would probably supersede it.
So actually they don't stop moving when you take control, because I understood that this morning.
Right.
They keep
if
doing
orders are,
something that
whatever
they
were
think.
doing, they would still be gathering resources. Whatever orders are queued or going on will continue, but once they do that, there's no thought behind it after that. There's no additional orders that will come down to us. Yeah.
Sticking at that replay feature, I was curious because you listed it as two separate points. The first one was resuming from replay, and the second one was jumping into a replay. So is there a difference between them?
There is. So in the official the official names that we're calling these different things is watch with others, which is the ability to multiplayer replay watch. Then there's called recover game. And recover game is very specific to the esport case. Potentially it could be used in any other case. Recover game is a right-click command when you're in the replay menu now. And that will allow you to pick a time zone, and it actually puts points, like last packet received by player 30, and then you can set a time in front of there. The difference with recover game is neither player would see any info. They're both added in, you recover the game, you set the timeline, then when you press, it's black, they're blank screens, and then they go in, they get a loading bar waiting for the game to start, and then it counts down, then they begin playing. So they can't discover things about the other player or sit there and do some additional analysis of what they should do.
That's an option for the esports.
Anybody can do it, but it's designed really for the esports case. Then take command is anytime you're watching a replay, you now have this option called take command where you can jump in at any point in that replay. So there's definitely a relationship there, but the recover game is specifically designed to not share information.
Okay, so this recover game all happens in a kind of preparing menu without going inside really the replay. Okay.
Yes.
But that's actually a really cool option. So one of the admins can watch the replay and then decide we are jumping
We want
in
to do
at
that
this
30
point,
seconds before
and the players don't see anything of their information.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a really good choice. We have roughly 2 months until the release now, so both in terms of single player and multiplayer, what do you think are the biggest steps that are left to do?
Single player is just this final bit of polish. We're actually playing through this week. The whole team is playing. We've stopped work on everything else and just playing through and doing kind of final polish, this step that something QA can help with, but it's QA's job is to say, does this function or does this not function? What we're doing right now is this living up to everything we can? Is the launch point for the missile that's coming off the unit lined up as well as it could be? Is a data guy, one of our data guys or technical designers, could they make this look a little bit better? Those sorts of very high level or very specific polished details. So that's really all that's left there. We are basically done with the campaign minus that final bits of polish. On the multiplayer side, we still have some work in front of us. We're mostly focused on the Protoss versus Terran matchup, and specifically the viability of mech in that matchup. There's a couple other ideas that we're waiting on to see whether they're necessary to put in there. But we've done the majority of things we wanted to do before launch, so we feel we're close. But that's probably where the biggest focus is still remaining. And, and then the last thing is this feature. I told you all the names that we call it officially in the game, but I refer to it all as multiplayer resume from replay. It's all of these kind of things as one thing. Is a massive undertaking. It's taken us many months to put this together. It's all working now, but there's still a lot more testing to do, and that's got to come together before we get out the 2.0 patch, the final patch right before we launch the game. So that's where the focus is being broken up right now.
So that's also probably why the replay features are not in the beta included.
Yeah,
so far.
exactly. It's we spent a lot of time and effort trying to estimate and understand this. It's a very complicated feature, and it's taken us longer than we anticipated, but it's going to make it. So that's the important part.
I was thinking about the multiplayer part of the game. I played the beta from the very early stage, and I remember this very cool units were ants for Terrans, which is not there anymore for obvious reasons. So I wonder if you plan to add some units apart from the ones from the campaign that we discussed about, which are not very balanced, to the multiplayer, in particular for the Terran race, which at the moment is very similar to the one in Wings of Liberty, because it's the one with less units that's playable.
No, we don't have an intention to add additional units at this time. The Warhound is something we continue to look at, but the reality is it's very unlikely that it would return. When you look at what we've done in our previous expansions, this is in line with that, and in fact I would say we're doing even more on the additional changes to the races. So part of it is to continue to have a relationship with Wings of Liberty and the things that were established there, and our goal out of this is to add more tricks to the bag so that you as a viewer and you as a player have more options available when you see a particular tactic used against you, but not to completely change the game. So it's on purpose that we only change 2 or 3 units per side, and that's really so anyway, that doesn't, I don't know if that helps specifically, but not right now. It's doing what we're intending.
Maybe a short last question.
Yeah, sure.
Global play. I was asked several times, if you have more than one license, maybe currently EU license and North America license, what happens when you enter global play? Will you have 2 accounts to select, or do you just can play like someone with just 1 license?
You will have 2 accounts I'm going to have to get you this back, because this has come up and I don't remember the answer to this, but what I believe will happen is you'll select from 2 different accounts. You'll have like an SC1 and SC2 account, and then within whatever one you go into, you can choose what region you want to go to. When you go to that new region, you will have a new character in that new region, so you'll be able to choose from either, or it doesn't take away from what you've bought already.
Okay. We can confirm that for you.
That would be nice,
for sure, but I'm pretty sure that that's right. But I know that there was some specific situations where there were players that had purchased the game in one region and then they couldn't get the upgrade they wanted. For example, this is stuff like with Latin America versus the US. They bought the Latin American version. They want to put the US version in conjunction, but this wasn't about having 2 accounts. It was about what account can they get to upgrade with Swarm, and where can they play if they get the US version. And some of those complexities there, I really don't remember, but in that particular case, I'm pretty sure that's right. We'll confirm that and get back to you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Awesome, thank you guys.
Thank you.
So, you guys want to do some pictures?
Yes.